6. Subversion and the Tithe. During the 11th century, Manichaean ideas spread rapidly into northern Italy and southern France, having come there from North Africa, Byzantium, and Bulgaria. The headquarters in Europe of this movement was in Bosnia, whence a leader or pope is said to have ruled his followers. Most of these followers came to be known as Catharists. The Catharists attacked the Christian church as the Church of Satan, mocked at infant baptism, communion, and orthodox doctrine. They held that the material world was created by Satan, the apostate Son of God, while men's souls belonged to the true kingdom of heaven. In particular, the Catharists struck at the foundations of Christendom by speaking against the tithe and urging people not to pay tithes. This fact alone drew adherents in many localities. This fact, moreover, contributed to the changed attitude of the Church towards these groups, and the suppression of all such movements began. Runeberg sees a connection between the Catharist movement, which went underground, and the rise of witchcraft. The Catharists apparently allied themselves with the ancient religious practices and superstitions of rural peoples and gave them a Manichaean development. Thus, an ancient and dying paganism was converted into an aggressive heresy which was striking at the foundations of Christendom by attacking the tithe. There was thus a dual movement underway. First, an attack on Christendom by means of an attack on its material mainstay, the tithe, and second, an attempt to tie the tithe too closely to the Church, which also undercut the vitality of Christian renewal. As long as the tithe flows freely to reforming agencies, renewal is constant. When it is tied to the Church's power is enhanced, not the vitality of Christendom. In England, however, the monastic foundations impropriated the tithes from the parochial clergy, who had long given the poor tithe careful attention. By the early 12th century, this was creating problems. As the monastic foundations lost interest in the poor, there were complaints in Parliament against these impropriations. In spite of this, the parish churches still did much to minister to the poor. The ruthless impropriations of monastic properties by Henry VIII were in part made possible by this background. The monetary inflation of the Tudor regimes then worked to destroy the ability of the parish churches to minister to the poor with its existing funds, and the clergy itself became needy. The tithe, thus, can be subverted in more than one way. It can be subverted by an attack on the law of tithing. It can be undercut by appropriating the tithe to the Church or state rather than to the Lord's work directly from the people of God. It can be nullified by monetary inflation, whereby endowed funds are reduced to a pittance and long-range provisioning made of none effect. Without the tithe, the need for social financing remains, and thus the state tax takes over, as well as the statist corruption and misappropriation. A limited state without a tithe is an impossibility, and political conservatives who dream of such an order are fools and dreamers, as are anarchists who dream of existing with no state at all. A strong familistic society and a tithing society can create a wide variety of institutions, schools and agencies which can take over the basic functions of church, school, health and welfare, and thereby shrink the state to its proper dimensions. Social financing is necessary. Either the people of God undertake it, or the state will.